भरने से पहले गवर्नमेंट से परमिशन लेनी पड़ती है कि हम पोस्ट भरेगी नहीं भरे, जब स्टेट गवर्नमेंट हाँ कहेगी तब एडवर्टाइजमेंट निकालेंगे। सो दैट इज ऑटोनोमस, हमको ये नहीं करना पड़ता। मेरा वाइस चांसलर जिस दिन चाहता है पोस्ट एडवाइस कर देता खाली है तो, और भर देता है। बट यूजीसी के रूल फॉलो करते हैं, राइट? यू आर नॉट आउट ऑफ द लॉ ऑफ द लैंड फॉलोइंग द यूजीसी रूल्स, बट यू आर flexibility enough that you don't need to seek permission for implementing that. That's what autonomy means. That is also still there, but it's a more autonomy means जो UGC ने आज कहता है यही कोर्स का नाम होना चाहिए, ऐसा flexibility आपको मिलेगी. You can implement whatever course. Take your governing council will take a decision and do that. And but the government will ensure that you are governed well, doing well, and at the same time that if doing good research and you will be empowered and financially supported. अभी भी देखिए आपको 1,000 करोड़ रुपए लोगों को मिले हैं वहाँ पर 10 साल के लिए सरकार फॉर आउटस्टैंडिंग एक्सलेंस, यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ एक्सलेंस। हमको नहीं मिला अलग बात है, बट बहुत सारे लोगों को मिला हुआ है यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ एक्सलेंस 1,000 करोड़ फॉर 5-10 years. रिस्पेक्ट ऑन दैट, डी को मिला, बीएचयू को मिला, सबको मिला, पर हमको नहीं मिला। हम एनआरएफ रैंकिंग में वैसे यूनिवर्सिटी लेवल पर 1 और 2 पर आते हैं, बट मिला नहीं अलग बात है। We are not promoted or we are not empowered in spite of outstanding, but ठीक है। What I am trying to say, this is what they said: if you are doing good research, you will be empowered financially in other way in terms of academic autonomy. You will be empowered with that. That's all. And continuous policy making. यानी कि 1986 के बाद 2020 में policy बनेगी, तो policy should be more recurring rather than 50 साल में, 40 साल में, every 10 years you should have some policy in place. That's what the continuous policy making. And contradictory, what I say contradictory in the sense is this: education is a public service. This is what this document says, but whether it will be able to implement this or not is a very difficult one. The moment it's a public service, it must be supported by the government. And the way the funding and everything is being withdrawn from the public education system, and seems to be whether this goal of the education policy will be really implemented or not is a big challenge. That's what I say. It is contradictory, but it may be some other sense. Just substantial investment in a strong and vibrant public education system. It says that the government, or there must be investment, sufficient investment in strong, vibrant public education system. अब खर्चा करना पड़ेगा, बहुत खर्चा करना पड़ेगा, so that equitable and accessible education can be done. How it be done? It's said the philanthropists will come in picture. दानी लोग आएंगे बीच में, और मुझे लगता नहीं कि दानी लोग बहुत हैं, कोई दानी है नहीं, कुछ नहीं है, right? All are business model. That is what my, you may disagree with me, they are all business models. ये सुनने में नहीं तो टाटा बिरला ने जितने एजुकेशन सिस्टम आजकल खोले देश में क्या होगा, दिस इज नॉट माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग, बट इट्स गुड at least, but if some philanthropists come, it's good that way. I'm not criticizing that, but it cannot be the substitute for the government funding. That's what I'm trying to say. Philanthropists can be supplementary. If the government cannot support that much funding, philanthropists may come and they may also do funding. It can be a supplement process, but not a substitute for the government funding. That's what. But the goal is good that at least government education system, public education system should get good funding from the government, from the private, from whatever it is. If it is done, yes, of course, it can be equitable, inclusive, or kind of an education, accessible, affordable, whatever you call, right? That's what the goals of this is. ओके, 5 मिनट का ब्रेक ले लो, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन में चलते हैं, राइट? ऐसी ठीक है। चलिए आगे लो. वेट करेंगे शुरू करें हम लोग. हाँ हाँ छुट्टी करते हैं. Now, some of the key points which this policy focuses on is, it focuses on the school education, number one. How should the school education system should be, and then the higher education. These are all some headings in the policy document where school education is one component, higher education another component, then it's a vocational education, right? And then it's also focusing on adult education. See, look at the 70, 80, 90, whatever years say after that of education, we still need to have adult education. And yes, I think if 6.2 crore children are still out of education system, जब वो बूढ़े होंगे उनको तब भी पढ़ाना पड़ेगा ना. भाई अगर इतने करोड़ लोग सिस्टम से बाहर हैं, तो बाहर ही रहेंगे और बूढ़े हो जाएंगे तो एडल्ट एजुकेशन की जरूरत तो पड़ेगी आपको. Otherwise, by this time, the adult education should have been eliminated. At least the child education system should have been there, right? And that's where we lack, still lack. So, but still it is needed. That's how it is. And another focus of this is the promotion of Indian language. अच्छा ठीक है 11 बजे ना. Then, okay. Then it also said that we must promote Indian language, art and culture. And then it should have a lot of educational bodies and financing bodies. This is what the document suggests. And it talks on all these. It is a 62-page document like this. Now, in this, just 1 minute. Before I go on that, let me put few what I think of the education system. This is my idea which I talk most of the time is, before I go in details of the document. See, to me, any education policy, one is important for a country like us is that the accessible education, that everybody get accessible education. Probably, that's why there was a college in the small town. When we started, we had college, started with the college and a school in small town, then we have school in every village, right? And the children in the village can also go to the school in a small distance. Now, in the current date, lot of schools are closed. Madhya Pradesh government has 3,000, Rajasthan 1,000 something, Uttarakhand something, Kerala something. Irrespective of who is in the government, doesn't matter. I'm not talking of any political, but the schools are being closed. There may be n number of regions. The reason may be that the children are less in a school. एक गांव में केवल 4 ही बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं स्कूल में. The reason being people have migrated from the place. लोग गांव से चले गए या वहां भी पब्लिक प्राइवेट स्कूल खुल गए, वो भी अपने बच्चों को वहां भेज रहे हैं. This is what the government school, as the student ratio is very very small. मैं अभी गांव गया, मेरे गांव में 4 बच्चे हैं एक स्कूल में, दूसरे स्कूल में 8 बच्चे हैं. मैं अभी क्या 1 महीने पुरानी बात बता रहा हूँ. And I try to find out कितने बच्चे हैं स्कूल में, कहीं 4 कहीं 8, ऐसे भी स्कूल हैं. Now this may be financially a burden on the government, but at the same time, वो छोटा बच्चा 1-2 किलोमीटर जा भी नहीं सकता है. Look at the contradiction. A small child of 5-year age cannot walk to 1 kilometer and 1.5 kilometer for education. But at the same time, in a village school, that ratio is very small. जब बगल में प्राइवेट खुल गया हो तो अपना पैसा देता है, आपसे अपनी गाड़ी भेजता है, वो गाड़ी से तो चला जाता बच्चा, बट पैदल नहीं जा सकता है. See what I am trying to say, that not everybody in a village can also. वो 4 बच्चे हैं जो वो प्राइवेट एजुकेशन नहीं सपोर्ट नहीं जा सकते. वो जो बगल में एक कोई सिटी कंट्री वाइड स्कूल खुल गया है, उसमें वो 4 बच्चे के मामा फीस नहीं दे सकते, वो नहीं जा सकते. बट बाकी गांव के बच्चे दे सकते तो वहां जा रहे हैं. अब इनके लिए क्या होगा? इफ यू क्लोज डाउन द स्कूल, they will be out of education. That's what the current situation is. I have seen my eyes in my village and around surrounding villages. Now the question comes. Therefore, the accessibility of education is important. Even if there are 4 children in a school, I think it's the responsibility of the government to give them education. That's what I am focusing on, the accessible education. Any policy must focus on accessibility of the education, even in a small child. एक मुझे जापान, हम तो खैर पूरे that way underdeveloped country, जापान में एक ट्रेन चलती, नाम भूल गया. A single student remained a passenger in that train, but till he completed his education, that train kept on running. एक ही पैसेंजर लेके चलती थी. You might have also read this story. वो कई साल तक एक ही पैसेंजर, but train continued till that student completed his education. That's what the accessible education means. Right? The second focus must be on the affordable education. As a government, I am saying that ऐसा मैंने कहा ना, वो तो कंट्री वाइड में नहीं जा सकता, तो उसका तो माँ बाप नहीं भेज सकते हैं. One cannot afford. He can only afford education in the school which is in the village, even if 4 students. So, if you need to have an inclusive education, what the policy document says that equitable and inclusive education, then it must be affordable as well. Only then you will be able to make it inclusive and equitable education. If it is not affordable, you cannot. Right? But yes, of course, there are different kind of people. I can send my child in a big educational system where I can pay a good fee, but not every parent can do that. So therefore, it must be affordable as well. So that also suggests in a country like ours that the public education system, many of us who are teaching here, maybe most of us, I feel that who are teaching here, maybe part of a government education system. वहीं से पढ़ के आए होंगे, भले आज यहाँ पढ़ा रहे हैं, दूसरी बात है. Many of us are part of a government supported education system. Right? Affordable education helps. And employable education. Right? Ultimately, we don't study for the sake of learning. We also study because we will get a job. Right? इसलिए हम पढ़ते हैं, खाली इसलिए नहीं पढ़ते हमें सीखना ही है, मतलब अच्छा लगता है, कहने में तो अच्छा लगता है कि भाई the ideal state to learn, it's a learning process. But ultimate aim is to get a job for livelihood. Now, if the education is not employable, then what to do? So any policy document focus on these, and if you look at what it talked about the goals, that document of the goals talks of all these. It talks of accessibility, but it did not talk of affordable. But when it talks of the public education, it's education is a public service. The last say एक दो पहले मैंने एक goal था कि education is a public service, and that is what probably it focuses on affordable education. Right? So it, and then knowledge and liberation is the most important point. Right? The moment I say knowledge and liberation, the critical thinking that policy document talks about, yes, that is what the knowledge is built if you are critically think. Otherwise, it is simply information, as I said. And liberation means one good point in that document is the constitutional values and the human values. If you look at that, and ethics, probably that can liberate us. The moment liberate us means कि we come out of this कि ये बंगाली है, कि ये तमिल है, कि ये उत्तराखंडी है, कि ये बिहार का है, बिहारी है. This is what we are divided into. If the education system brings you out of that, that's what liberation means. So in a country like ours, if you have constitutional values and human value, probably you can come out of those what you call regimental psyche. And जो psychological हम जो इतना regiment में बटे हुए कि भाई कौन क्या है, probably you can outcome. That's what liberation means. So any education policy must focus on that. I think the current document, if I read it properly, to large extent expresses those concerns. Right? But whether it will be able to implement it or not is a big challenge. That's where I see the challenge. But yes, it talks about that. Right? Can I take that? Okay. Tea break. Okay then, tea break.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we have a short tea break. I kindly request our chief guest, Professor Dr. G.K. Dovia, and external participants to proceed to the multi-purpose hall, just opposite the seminar hall.
लाइव टेलीकास्ट चल रहा है ये देख लीजिए कौन कौन जा रहा है खाने को
I also request for the internal participants to please proceed to the multi-purpose hall for the tea break. For the ABS IT faculty also.